great question. I think I have some experts here who can answer that for you.
Thank you. Any other questions, this witness? Seeing none, anybody here testify in favor of House Bill 1137? You can receive it everybody, make sure you fill out a witness statement.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Ian Dunlap with Missouri Department of Public Safety. Yeah, what this does, this basically is for consistency purposes. Majority of everyone in counties, they report that the domestic violence to the patrol. And there's a couple, most provisions in law say, you know, you shall, but there's one provision that still says voluntary. So we're just making things consistent. It was a little confusing for law enforcement. So if you have any questions, I have someone from the patrol who's very knowledgeable about this issue as well. And we thank the representative for bringing this forward.
Any questions? Seeing none, you got off the hook, my good man.
Thanks, sir.
Anyone else here testify in favor of House Bill 1137? Maybe you can proceed whenever you're ready.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, for the record, Colin Cole with the Missouri Coalition Against Domestic and Sexual Violence in support of this bill. I would note for Representative Conway, this is language left over from the very beginning of this bill. This language in 1991. We just need to clean it up.
Good. Any questions, this witness? Seeing none, thank you. Anyone else here testify in favor of 1137? Seeing none, anyone here in opposition to 1137? Anyone here in opposition to 1137? Seeing none, anyone here for informational purposes only? Do you have any closing comments?
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much for your consideration of this.
That concludes the hearing on 1137.
Down here,
1170, Representative Reader. You can begin whenever you're ready.
Good evening, committee. I am Representative Holly Rader from Scott and Mississippi counties. Thank you so much for hearing our bills this evening. All this bill does is it updates the
having our controlled substances mirroring that will be a great help to law enforcement in the state of Missouri and the laboratories that are testing those drugs.
any questions?
Is this witness Representative Black?
Just for clarification, I know we're moving very quickly this evening. Does this mean anything that's a controlled substance, scheduled narcotic, chemical compound of those things that are found in corner convenience stores?
C1 through C5 would be covered by this.
So bath salts and all those.
All those things that are, yeah, those that become scheduled. Again, there's 283 seen worldwide at the current time, 167 in the United States. And we probably have less than 60 of those actually scheduled, but there's some temporary scheduling and some emergency scheduling going on with DEA at the current time on many of those. And so we want to, instead of having to wait every year for legislature to come in to move those forward, just to have the Missouri controlled substances mirror those of the federals.
So then every year that we hear a new chemical compound and we're behind several months because we're not in session, then it would automatically put those new chemical compounds on it.
Correct, and I would hope there'll be some language going forward also to move the consent bill forward each year to continue that on. And what happened was the controlled substances got lined up into the crime bill last year. And so right now, without this bill, if we don't move them forward, they won't go into effect until January 1 of 2017.
Makes perfect sense. Thank you.
Questions, this witness? Seeing that, thank you, sir. Anybody else here testify in favor of 1170? Anyone here opposed to 1170? Anyone opposed to 1170? Anybody informational purposes? Seeing none, Representative Beal, close the comments.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now go to House Bill 178. Representative May.
Good evening. I would like to thank the committee and the chair for hearing this bill. This is a bill that we have passed out of the House, I think, for the last 3 years. It has been going. We also got it out of the Senate. We eventually got it to the governor's desk, but it was vetoed. So what this bill does is the Class B felony for criminal non-support, and I'm gonna sum it up real fast. If you are a lot of the people who got laid off from the car companies like Chrysler in that instance, where their child support was automatically coming out of their check and they had to, try to find a job. But if they didn't find one in 12 months, they were automatically given a Class B felony for child support. And that's because the modification process is so complicated for the state that it's hard to pass legislation to correct it, because you're gonna need like a whole team to go in and try to figure out, how do we simplify or streamline the process. But what this bill does, it allows a one-time expungement for criminal non-support of the Class B felony. And let me just give you a couple of facts. When you come into the court, you get served or whatever, you haven't paid your child support, you come in, they give you what they call a suspended imposition of sentence, and you're automatically given either 5 to 10 years probation. So what this bill says is that after you completed that probation, and you don't have any arrears, and you've waited, we got an 8-year waiting period in here. And technically, this will only apply to people who doesn't have really any more child support left, basically. Their kids are gone, and they're trying to transition into other employment, such as real estate, different licensings for other things, and the Class B felony prevents them from doing that. So if I have any more questions, I'm happy.
I've got a comment. It's kind of an odd process, because if you don't pay your child support, the first thing they do is take away your driver's license.
Yes.
So then how do you go to work to make money?
That's a whole nother fight.
I know.
We can't even attack it on the state level, because the driver's license removal is a federal.
Yeah. Representative Wilson, go ahead.
Why was it vetoed?
Well, the governor said that he said that we talked about it. The part in here where actually they didn't read the bill. That was one of the reasons that was vetoed. That's the first. That was the first part. And then the comment was when we say shall instead of may. But in this case, you've already waited 18 years, so you don't have any kids, left here. So when you've paid off all your money, so you don't owe anything. So it's just giving you an opportunity to take care of your grandkids, basically.
Thank you. Any other questions? Go ahead, Representative Hickman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, to inquire.
Go ahead.
Which, he had the other part of my question. What do we do in this bill, which I like, by the way, to allow the courts to extend to those guys or gals that in a 10-month period, once they've lost, like Quaker Oats quit, Chrysler, sometimes they lay off, and they do, and they're short funded, to prevent them from losing their driver's license, so that they can either go out and find more in part-time work or whatever. Do you address that in here? When I read through it earlier,
I do not,
see that.
and let me tell you why. Okay, it was very complicated trying to address those issues. What would be most helpful? What happened was, they were doing amnesty on traffic tickets, and we decided to do amnesty on the warrants for child support, and we had 700 people show up, and we didn't know how to handle the crowd. Okay, so we didn't know that many people out there that was affected by, this. So we couldn't address that because it falls under that modification process. If anybody want to study it, do it. It's a very complex.
So
part.
you would be open to an amendment if we're so lucky that this gets to the floor and heads to the governor, that we would amend that would allow the courts to look at the individual circumstances and not suspend, because right now it's administrative suspension.
Of their driver's license. Actually, you can't, they're gonna tell you, the court's gonna tell you it's a federal requirement. The license part comes from the federal level.
Okay.
And that's what I found out during my investigation. I couldn't do anything with the driver's license piece because it was federal law.
All right.
So we were complying with federal law on the driver's license part.
All right.
So, but I mean, I'm open to
I don't think we can
any
fix the bill.
perfections.
I mean, I think I could try, but I don't think we can. Thank you.
Any further questions? Seeing none, anyone here testify in favor of House Bill 178? Anyone testify in opposition to House Bill 178? Anybody for informational purposes? Representative May, do you have any closing comments?
No, thank you for hearing me.
Thank you. That concludes hearing on 178. Now I'm going to hear 1329, Representative Pike. You can begin whenever you're ready.
Good evening. For the record, I'm representing Patricia Pike, representing for District 126, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak to the committee on the bill tonight. House Bill 1329 has to do with the dissemination of dehydrated alcohol products in the form of powder, crystals, and capsules in Missouri. This bill prohibits the sale of serving powdered alcohol forms and creates the offense of illegal possession. Manufacturers are announcing these products will be released in stores and through mail order this summer across the United States in several flavors. And tonight we join a dialogue of many state legislatures across the United States regarding these products. Alaska, Louisiana, South Carolina, and Vermont have all enacted legislation in 2014 to ban the use of the products in their state. There have been 70 plus bills filed in 37 states and Puerto Rico in the 2015 legislative session in regard to regulating these alcohol products. 33 states to date have in place or are working on legislation to restrict the use in their states, and it's everywhere from Hawaii to Maine. The color chart that I provided for you is the Midwest, and it shows you a little bit about what's happening around Missouri. And you might note that 7 states surrounding us of the 8 have enacted legislation, and 5 of those states is to ban. Ohio, just a note, passed a ban to sell alcohol in this form with no floor discussion on the Senate floor and a 48-2 vote. This is an emerging issue that has been left up to states to regulate, and it makes sense for us as legislators to address it. In our districts, we represent the children, families, schools, law enforcement, emergency medical teams, and health facilities that deal with the flow of several new forms of alcohol products that will come to our Missouri market if we do not address it. This has many components, but one that I just wanted to mention that I have experience with is with youth. Missouri already has a very large underage drinking problem with kids that experiment with regular alcohol products, and youth are risk takers. And as a high school teacher and school counselor for 36 years, I can't tell you the number of students and parents I have set across in the school setting in regard to alcohol and underage drinking issues. Everything from confrontations with teachers to low grades, lethargic behavior, dismissals from sports teams, unplanned pregnancies, drunk driving accidents, and the worst, as any school counselor or school administrator will tell you, is comforting the parent that's lost a child in a drunk driving accident. We have a lot of experts that are going to come tonight in other areas, so I just want to end with the second handout that I gave you, and it touches on Missouri's statistics for using alcohol presently. And just noting, youth property crime, fetal alcohol syndrome to babies. And on the back, noting the percentages of teens in Missouri that they found. 25.3% have 5 or more drinks of alcohol in a row in the last 30 days. I mean, you can look at these statistics. Now, these are Missouri statistics without adding powdered alcohol, capsulated alcohol, crystal alcohol. So we're talking about adding more alcohol products on the market unless we address it. I just want to end with what this bill and the amendment that I brought with it will mean for our state. It will prevent the release in Missouri of powdered alcohol, crystal alcohol, and capsule alcohol until we know more about it, until we've had time to understand the implementation of its use. The amendment will exempt hospitals, state institutions, colleges, and universities to allow scientific research to occur so we can conduct some research and give us more insight. And the amendment will also have an emergency clause that will align legislation so the product will not reach the market this summer before the legislation will take effect. So it's sequenced. I think it's logical. It's imperative if we want to not have a potential problem for our state. With that, I'll invite us for questions.
Representative Hayton.
Briefly, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Lady, first of all, it's good to see you here.
Thank you.
Secondly, your numbers are undisputed. But what enforcement levels are we going to have in that?
Yes, it's written in for a class 3 misdemeanor. And I might note that the fiscal note was 0 on this bill.
That's because we have no alcohol and tobacco enforcement today. That's the one of the things I'm going to ask you to team up with one of my colleagues and say, let's get the alcohol enforcement brought up to where it needs to be, because we used to have like 38 to 42 agents, and now we have 6.
Okay. And, you know, obviously one of the reasons that I didn't just put this toward the age requirements down in Missouri is it's so much targeting and appealing to youth. And so I felt that regulation really wouldn't protect our youth.
You know, I see your numbers here, and they're alarming. I think they're only going to get worse. I really think that it's time that we stepped up and got in time with, I mean, powdered alcohol. Come on, you know, it's going to end up in every kid's pocket if we're not careful. Thank you. I appreciate it.
I appreciate that.
Representative Conway.
Thank you. Is this tax like alcohol, or is it tax just like normal sales tax?
No tax. It would not come into the market in Missouri.
No, if it did, is it taxed as alcohol or as sales tax?
You're
You're getting a head shake on alcohol, Jason.
Yes, ma'am.
I've got some experts.
Thank you.
Good question.
Representative Black.
I just have a question with the wording of the bill. Whenever it basically there's a prohibition on powdered, crystalline, or capsule form, and where it says either for direct use or for reconstitution, which means to reform it in a non-alcoholic liquid. If you're reconstituting it, wouldn't it be an alcoholic liquid? And wouldn't,
You know, it's made to be mixed with water. But the problems are for our use, and we're looking at both misuse and extended use. Instead of advertised as it is to be mixed with water, mix it with alcohol, which gives it a
so
totally
the actual
different.
powder itself has no alcohol
Yes,
content?
the powder has alcohol, but it's
Reconstituted. How can you reconstitute it in a non-alcoholic liquid?
in water.
That would make it alcoholic then. Okay, am I seeing like there's, right, okay, so you would be reconstituting it in an alcohol, okay, now I've got you. All right, I just wanted to make sure that we,
freeze-dried alcohol that you would.
okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Representative Walter Gray.
I just want to clarify, this bill will prevent, like you just said, like, the use of powdered alcohol from it all being distributed in Missouri, even if you're licensed to sell liquid alcohol, correct?
At this time. And then that would give us a chance with the research component of the amendment to find out more about it and not only chemically, but also socially, what's happening around the country with products that would affect Missourians in the meantime.
Any other questions for Bill sponsor? Go ahead, Representative Hill.
Thank you. Hey, great job on this bill. I know you worked really hard on it. You did a lot of research, forced me to do a lot of research, which I appreciate. Little did I know that this stuff has been around since the 70s. So it was very surprising. But the representative brought something up here. You know, I think most of the enforcement is going to be on the street level for this kind of thing. You know, for open container violation of the law, you know, if you simply have a cup of water and you got a pill or a capsule in your pocket, technically you have access to alcohol at any time while you're driving a vehicle. So I think this is a really important bill. I'll be glad to help you with it.
Thank you. Thank you for that aspect of it.
Any further questions? Seeing none, anyone here testify in favor? Make sure you fill out a witness form. You begin whenever you're ready.
Hi, I'm Donna Pettiford. I'm with the Missouri PTA. We represent 55,000 members across the state, and we are here to express our concern about the effects of powdered alcohol on Missouri's youth. We are most concerned about the highly concentrated effects of powdered alcohol and how easily it can be concealed by minors and mixed with other things like food, caffeinated beverages, those sorts of things. So we are in support of this bill.
Any questions of this witness? Seeing none, thank you, ma'am, for testimony. Anybody else here testify in favor? Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. Jason Gomer, Franklin, or Missouri Narcotics Officers Association. And I'll be brief. 25-year career in law enforcement. Outside of normal traffic tickets, almost everyone that we deal with either has a drug or alcohol abuse problem that's involved in crime. By allowing something like this onto the streets, you're inviting more individuals to begin or to continue their disease of addiction. When I was doing my background research, I found the original website for alcohol, which is one of the companies that is marketing this drug. And they put this up last summer when they thought they were going to get FDA approval. And so their number one reason for alcohol is what's worse than going to a concert, sporting event, etc., and having to pay $10, $15, or $20 for a mixed drink with tax and tip. Are you kidding me? Take alcohol into the venue and enjoy a mixed drink for a fraction of the cost. So the things that are done at hockey games, at baseball games, sporting events, like the seventh inning, no more beer sales would be out the window because individuals would just be able to carry powder in their pocket into the game, and then once alcohol sales stopped at those venues, they'd be able to use water or soda or whatever they had and have alcohol. We've been talking about drinks so far, but we have found adding alcohol to food is so much fun. Sprinkle alcohol on almost any dish and give it an extra kick. Some of our favorites are kamikaze and guacamole, rum on barbecued sandwich, or Cosmo on a salad, and vodka on eggs in the morning to start your day off right. My doctor always tells me that a good shot of vodka with eggs is the best and most nutritious way to start my day. Now, they have completely changed their website, but I think their original website tells you exactly what they're marketing to and who they're marketing to, and that is not like most. We have some great wineries here in the state of Missouri, and they're there because people enjoy the taste of wine and they're making an art form. Same with bourbons and other drinks. Although people do abuse those, this is purely being marketed for abuse. This has nothing to do with an art form. This is just an easy way to conceal alcohol and continue the disease of alcohol abuse. And we don't think that there's really any reason to market this in the state of Missouri in any way, shape, or form.
Any questions for this witness? Seeing none, thanks, sir, for testimony. Anybody else here testify in favor? You can begin, everybody. Make sure to fill out a witness form. Thank you so much. You can begin.
My name is Julie Weber, and I'm the director of the Missouri Poison Center at SSM Cardinal Glennon Children's Medical Center. And I'm here today to testify in support of House Bill 1329. Our concerns come from the misuse and accessibility that this powdered alcohol will bring to children. We receive 54,000 calls a year, And of those, traditional alcohol products comprise about over 1,400 of our 1,300 of our calls. And what we see is it's in children. This accessibility, 59% of our calls come in on pediatric patients, and you think about the accessibility in home, and the majority of these calls happen because of lookalikes, like candy looks like medicine sometimes. And with this, if you look at the powdered alcohol, it looks like Fun Dip, and they can have a good taste, and the bright colors can bring this to that the children can easily access this. Then when I look at the next set of our call volume is into the 6 years up to 19 years of age and misuse of the product. And another great concern, because the majority of the calls again are coming in on that misuse and accessibility. And with this being in the homes and that ability of them to be able to, just as said before, sneak it into things and then to extra concentrate this alcohol. What we're looking at with these single serving packets are 20 milliliters of alcohol when diluted. Pure alcohol of 1 milliliter per kilogram. So one packet of this reconstituted in a 2-year-old would be a referral to the hospital. So a serious ingestion for us.
Any questions of this witness? We were just talking actually, and I said, you know, the little, I can't think of what they're called, dipsticks or whatever, it's got the little.
The Fun Dips, yes.
Yeah, the Fun Dip. And I was thinking, that's a way, that's a bad idea, but yeah. I mean, and I can see where that could be that way. Yeah.
We see that every day with just how close it looks like a food or a candy
Sure.
substance, and they like the taste of it.
Sure. Any questions of this witness? Seeing none, thank you, Mayor, for testimony. You left here to testify in favor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. For the record, Abram Messer with Missouri Family Network. I want to take up a lot of your time. Had a lot of great discussion on this, and I think you all understand and see that this is a serious issue that we need to address here in Missouri.
Thanks, sir. Any questions of this witness? Seeing none, you left here to testify in favor.
Jordan Schling on behalf of the emergency room.
Any questions of this witness? Go ahead, sir.
And you see this as affecting the emergency room by
Oh, we just see the
youths,
right.
underage? I guess that was, okay, go ahead.
Right. The incident of calls or people that are coming into the ERs.
Accidental
Exactly right.
doses, okay.
Yeah.
Something similar to what's going on with the recreational stuff that they're putting in candy bars now.
So accidental overdoses is probably a better way of saying it is they consume it and they don't realize how much they're really consuming because it's so concentrated in the truck.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Hi, my name is Amy Weiland. I am a drug and alcohol abuse counselor for the Crossroads Program, which is a private treatment program in Kansas City, St. Louis, and Columbia. If I didn't support this bill, I'd actually stay in business. But I do support this, and probably the main reason is, first time I ever drank, I was 11 years old. I was a blackout drunk, very first time. And it's not because I didn't have parents, it's not because I didn't have support. In fact, I actually had parents, I had support. I was at a friend's house, and it was the thing to do. I sobered up at 18 years old before I was even legal to be able to drink alcohol. And the first thing that I thought of as soon as I heard about powdered alcohol is, how about take 10 packs and stick it in a water bottle? And working with young people, the young people I work with are between the ages of 13 and 25, and I guarantee every single one of them, that's their thoughts. How can I get more? How can I get drunk faster? When I think about the idea of, you know, I know this isn't a marijuana topic, but when I think about marijuana brownies, I think about adding alcohol on top of that. I don't know what the effects of that would be, but I think they would be devastating. I support this bill because I think that if this doesn't happen, kids will die. Yeah.
Something I never thought of just till now was, as a police officer, how do we detect if somebody's been drinking? A lot of it's the odor. That there's not any odor probably with this powder. Is there odor with the powder?
Yeah, it's the same drink, it's the same drink dehydrated to less than 1%.
So when you hydrate it or whatever, okay.
Same color, same odors.
Representative Higbee.
Good court.
Go ahead.
when you said crossroads, the first thing that come to my mind was what we have over in Cameron is called Crossroads, which is our state penitentiary.
Yeah, definitely not that.
Okay, so, but when I'm going there, something I hadn't thought of is, you know, we smuggle, or not we, because I don't do it. But drugs and such are smuggled into our institution. Now we're going to be smuggling in alcohol and out of one. That's a thought we should be looking at as well. But that was just a statement, not really a question. But we're going to be looking at people trying to smuggle alcohol into our correctional facilities as well.
Well, and I also think about, just to add to that, when I was in the 5th grade, I would take thermoses of vodka to school and drink. Now you don't have to.
Yeah, now you don't have to. All right, thank you.
Any other questions? Saying none, thank you, ma'am. Make sure you fill out a witness form. Anybody else here testify in favor of House Bill 1329? Go ahead, sir.
Very briefly, my name is Ken Hansen. I'm the Executive Director for the Missouri Chapter of the American Academy of Pediatrics. Notice Pike is contributing a letter of support from our chapter, obviously in support of this, and protecting the health and welfare of our children in our state. So not to repeat everything that's been said, but it makes sense for pediatricians to support me on this product.
Any questions this witness? Seeing none, thank you, sir. Anybody else here testify in favor? Anyone else here opposed? Anyone here opposed to House Bill 1329? Anyone here for informational purposes? Ma'am, you can proceed whenever you're ready. Make sure you fill out a witness form.
Hi, Natalie Newville with ACT Missouri. We are the statewide training and resource center for drug and alcohol prevention with focus on youth. I'm not going to repeat what everyone else has said. However, I have fancy fact sheets that have a lot of that written down, as well as some statistics in Missouri as far as youth and underage drinking facts. So the average age that a teen first starts drinking in Missouri is 13. You can see why this product is for them and that kind of stuff. So I'll leave these here for you guys.
Thank you, ma'am. Any questions this witness? Seeing none, thank you, ma'am. Anybody else here for informational purposes only? Thank you. Ms. Spike, you got anything, closing comments real quick?
Just a couple of pieces of research. One, it'll change the look of alcohol poisoning. They'll be consuming less liquid if they take it straight, and also mixed with caffeine. It makes them less sleepy, and that would be great in driving to stay awake while you're taking this product, wouldn't it? So in conclusion, I just want to thank you for listening today. I think it's imperative that we move this legislation forward and hopefully take action before it becomes on the market this summer. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That concludes the hearing on House Bill 1329. I hear House Bill 1284, Representative Taylor.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Jared Taylor. I represent the 139th District of the state of Missouri, western half of Christian County. I'm presenting HB 1284. Basically, this bill creates the crime of abuse. If a pregnant woman uses illegal or controlled substance without a script while she was pregnant, and it adversely affects the health of the baby. Just for record, I've already asked the House Research, if you take a look at the bill, when I originally asked them to draft it, I asked them to put in their information regarding the drug court system, but they said it wasn't necessary because it already falls under the provision in current law. After talking with a few people, I've been asked to put it in just for clarification. So I've drafted an amendment that I will have hopefully somebody sponsor once the time comes, but it also adds a provision that will allow the court to send the offender to another drug rehab program that's court approved, because I know that not all counties have the drug court system. So with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
So basically what your bill does, if mom comes into the hospital, getting ready to give birth, the baby test hot for methamphetamine, baby test hot for methamphetamine. It's a charge for abuse.
Correct.
Okay. All agree.
Currently, what happens? I know they remove your children or take your children from you, so you're not charged with anything?
That's correct.
Any other questions, Representative?
Well, actually, the comment, reading this bill, the first paragraph, defines the crime. So, us as policemen, a lot of times we'll witness this crime, but we have to wait until the birth of the child to find out if we can charge them. I would actually like to see this crime a little tougher, and the fact that if we witness an obvious pregnant woman drinking alcohol, just drunk, or shooting heroin, or using cocaine, or, we should have the ability to charge them right then and there, so that we can take the proper steps to possibly save the baby from being hurt.
Sure, and I'm up for suggestions and recommendations and changes to the bill to make it better.
We're gonna see the violation of this law, and unless we keep them in custody, this child could be further harmed.
Yeah.
So I'd just like to see it tougher. I guess that's all I have. Thanks. Good bill.
Thank you.
Any questions? Representative?
Question for you, sir. Will we get to see this bill for debate after it's amended?
Yeah, I don't have your amendment, so.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. We're not going to exec on it.
Okay.
We'll have the amendment to look at.
Yes, if you're considering the proposition that the representative just made, or will that be for alcohol as well as drugs? Because sometimes alcohol.
That would be up to the committee. Personally, the reason I didn't include alcohol or other legal substances, I felt that the inherent use of illegal activity was the purpose of the bill.
Okay, thank you.
Representative Hickman?
Just briefly.
Go ahead.
Sure. I think we'll be able to look at his amendment before we exec, and then one of the members of the board will probably provide that. The other is that, and I agree with the representative, sometimes doctors or whatever will prescribe a glass of wine as long as it's not being abused, for health issues. So, we're going to have to, but then Representative Hill's comment, or actually, I've seen those stumble down intoxicated females that probably should be taken into custody for the protection of their newborn, but then, we're going to have a different animal there. But on the amendment coming through, I think we'll be able to work that over before we exec and then and move forward from there. Thank you.
Representative Conway?
Thank you. We discussed this before, and one of the things that I found just a little troubling is if such person ingests injections, knowingly might be an important component of that. Do you see where I'm going? Because date rape, drugs, all these different things that crystalline, if we don't stop that's alcohol, but it seems like she may have to know what she's doing. I just wanted your comment if you had one.
Sure, and I think the knowingly is important because of the situations that you just described. Typically, from the research that I've done, is if it's a one-time off chance use, it typically doesn't affect the health of the baby. It's more of the repeated and how much is used is usually what affects the health of the baby. So usually the one-off, and I think that's a good argument that could be made, and hopefully the discretion of the prosecuting attorney would be used in those situations.
Any other questions? Seeing none, anyone here testify in favor?
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Ava Messer again with Missouri Family Network. I think there's some great comments to Representative Conway's question. That is a very, very important component. We are in the day and age where we have to consider What are you going to do about a victim of human trafficking who is on illegal drugs, but not of their own consent, not of their own intention? What happens to that individual? So I think there's a lot of discussions that can be had, but I think this is an important issue that should be discussed.
Representative Hill?
Sure. So baby's born at the hospital. How do you propose an investigator is going to start from there, investigate back possibly 8 months, and prove that the mother knowingly ingested an illegal substance?
That's a very good question, gentlemen. I'm not going to stand here and propose to tell you that I have the answer to that question, because I don't. What we're talking about are very complicated scenarios, very complicated situations. These are things in our day and age, you have to take them into consideration. You have to say, this is a great idea. How do we apply this in the real world? And I think we do that by having these kinds of discussions. And I'm certainly very open and willing to having more discussions with you and with the sponsor and the other members to throw some ideas around and see what is the best way to address this.
Well, I just think it's, if somebody sees the mother doing it at 6 months of pregnancy, they should be able to charge her right there, as opposed to losing evidence at 10 months, when the child's born. Thanks.
Representative North?
Permission, please. What's the sentence for a Class C felony or a Class B felony?
I don't know off the top of my head.
I think it's, Representative Hagan, what's Class B felony? What's that sentence on that? 10 to 15 years? Yeah.
Yeah, who's gonna raise this big?
I'd say that if they charge somebody with a crime like this, chances are the court's going to take custody of the kid anyways.
Well, I talked to some doctors today, in a conference call about this out of my office. And I would not say we're going about it the wrong way, but according to the ones I talked to, we're going about this the wrong way. This person needs treatment. If she's had the baby,
sure,
social services would come in and give her 30 days to get straight, because that's how long the baby is in the hospital before she's released. And if she don't do that in 30 days, then social services take the baby. And here, this woman can be charged on top of that.
Sure, and I think too, you look at the overpopulation of prisons, drug offenses typically don't go to prison, they go to treatment. So that's all up to a court and a judge.
Okay, thank you.
Which is why I had that amendment, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
I want to specifically give that option to the court, is, give that person the help needed.
Regardless, if she gets straight, she should be entitled to raise this baby.
I agree. Paul Graham?
Yes, along those lines as well, we mentioned knowingly. Some women do not know they're pregnant. And certainly you can't tell if there's any effect on the child until it's born. But I know that there have been women who drinking, didn't know they were pregnant. Well, let's leave out drinking because that's not part of your business.
Yes, ma'am.
So who used drugs and she actually had the baby, didn't know she was pregnant. They did take the child, like I said before, and it was for more than 30 days. Her sister took the child for a long time, and she had to prove that she could get the child back. But like he said, to go to possibly be sentenced to 10 years or even closer is a lot. Or especially if you didn't know.
And the word reasonably should have known is in there, is currently under law. The reasonable person standard in law gives the courts a little bit of discretion. I'm not a lawyer, I don't pretend to be one, but I specifically asked that question because I wanted to make sure that there are situations like that when they don't know that they're pregnant. But the reasonable standard law allows for the court for a little discretion from the court in situations like that.
Any other questions, witness? Seeing none? Anyone else here testify in favor? And you thought that was going to be quick, and it ended up being a lot longer. Go ahead, you can proceed whenever you're ready.
Thank you for having me. My name is Sarah Huff. I'm a registered respiratory therapist with a focus in neonatal and pediatric care. And I'm also a member of a transportation team for kids. So we go out to outlying facilities and see all kinds of low income, high income, any kinds of families with children related issues and healthcare. I just wanted to provide a few facts for you this evening. Infants born at less than 37 weeks gestation are automatically considered premature. And any infant born at less than 1,200 grams or approximately 2.5 pounds, which is very common, are automatically eligible for Medicaid. This is something that we deal with all of the time in our neonatal ICU. Infants withdraw from drugs and medications just like adults do. And when we see a female come in who is pregnant and a urine drug screen is pretty common practice these days as far as a mother coming in. Any medications like heroin, codeine, oxycodone, and methadone pass straight to the placenta to the fetus, and they're affected in the same way that an adult is. Many of these infants require care in the neonatal ICU because they are more prone to being born premature at low birth weights, hence they're going to be on Medicaid. Some symptoms of withdrawal on these kiddos, we've got mottled skin, diarrhea, excessive high-pitched crying, which can later lead to shaken baby syndrome because they just cannot comfort that child. Hyperactiveness, they jitter really easily, vomiting, tremors, low weight gain, sleep problems, seizures, rapid breathing, and poor feeding. These low birth weight infants and premature infants also have they suffer from many ailments in the short term as well as the long term. In the short term, we're talking about things like respiratory distress syndrome, lack of oxygen, anemia, jaundice, low blood pressure. Those holes in your heart stay open when they shouldn't. And after you're born, they're supposed to close, and they just don't on these kids. Talk about head bleeds, where they're bleeding into their skull. Bad news all the way around. Hydrocephalus, fluid on the brain. Body temperature regulation issues, hypoglycemia, low blood sugar. Poor feeding habits, and infections. So when you're talking about amphetamines, barbiturates, and cocaine, they've been proven to provide long chronic issues for these kiddos. As far as cerebral palsy, growth impairment, vision, dental, and hearing problems, impaired cognitive abilities, learning disabilities, ADHD, anxiety, depression, asthma, malformation of the heart, brain, all organs, increased risk of sudden infant death syndrome, as well as increased risk for type 2 diabetes. So.
Any questions of this witness? Seeing none, thank you for testimony, ma'am. Anybody else here testify in favor? House Bill 1284. You're here in opposition of House Bill 1284. Steve, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Sarah Rossi, Director of Advocacy and Policy with the ACLU of Missouri. I'm sure you expected my opposition. This is a criminal justice issue for us. I was trying to be as patient as possible. I'm very tired. It's been a long day. This is a criminal justice issue for us. I think this is just one more bill that's a symptom of over-criminalizing public health issues, which is what we see drug addiction as. Drug addiction is a public health issue. I do not dispute that drug addiction is unhealthy for mothers and unhealthy for newborn infants. That does not change the fact that drug addiction needs to be treated and not criminalized. I would also say that while I know this bill is meant to protect the health of newborn children, I honestly think it will put unborn children at risk, because if a woman knows she's going to be criminalized for drug addiction and she's already an addict, she's probably more likely to seek out a termination of that pregnancy. So if you're seeking out pro-life bills, this is probably not the bill for you. I would suggest funding addiction services for mothers, funding more addiction services for expectant mothers, and treating this as a public health issue and not a criminal justice issue.
I actually have a bill just for that.
What is it?
House Bill 1138. Creates tax on all illegal drugs. And that money goes towards. We oppose. Well, the money goes towards
if you put in drug addiction services for expecting mothers, I would talk to you about that.
But yeah.
I'd talk to you about it.
Absolutely. Any questions this witness? Go ahead, Representative Lyon.
Thank you, Mr. Churchman. Again, I think there are two different terms of technology terminology maybe that we're looking at here. You're talking about health and wellness kinds of things with the criminalization and so forth. We're also talking about child abuse. which is certainly, has to do with health and wellness of the child. And at the point where a born child, is abused, whether by bruising or whatever might be done, you do look at that though as a criminal act, is that correct?
After a child is
Forget
born
the
and is
drugs or-
abused by its parents, that is a crime, yes. I mean, I wouldn't dispute that.
Okay, so whether there's drugs involved or not.
Abuse of a child is abuse of a child, a born child, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none? Thank you, ma'am.
Thanks.
Any other opposition to this bill? Seeing none, anyone here for informational purposes? Seeing none, Representative Taylor, got any closing comments?
No, I appreciate the opportunity, and I'd be more than happy to work with anyone. Just give me a call, let me know what I can do.
Thank you. We'll now hear from Representative Curtis. Bill 1321, Representative Curtis. He's been patiently waiting.
What did you say? Whichever one you want to start on, I said what you want to start on. All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will keep this brief. Thank you for committee for allowing me the opportunity. Let's see, let's start with 1321. House Bill 1321, and for the record, I'm Representative Curtis. I represent North St. Louis County, the airport area of St. Louis County. According to the DOJ report, Ferguson's law enforcement practices were shaped by the city's focus on revenue rather than by safety needs. This emphasis on revenue has compromised the institutional character of the Ferguson Police Department, contributing to a pattern of unconstitutional policing, and has also shaped its municipal court, leading to procedures that raise due process concerns and inflict unnecessary harm on members of the Ferguson community. Therefore, I hope that it's in the best interest, or that the committee and the legislative body finds in their best interest to right some of the wrongs that have been done to my community. Both the Missouri Highway State Patrol and the St. Louis County Police Department are the leading law enforcement agencies in the state, not only in size, but cultural competence, ethical leadership, and community engagement. This bill seeks to authorize an accredited police agency like the Missouri Highway Patrol or St. Louis County Police Department to take over the daily operations of a department that does not implement the recommendations from the Department of Justice or the Attorney General's office after findings of unconstitutional practices or otherwise. This is just something that I think will potentially put more pressure on a department like Ferguson to actually implement the recommendations, as opposed to fighting the implementation of the recommendations for years, as some departments have done across the country. No one likes to be told what to do, so sometimes we have to apply additional pressure. The reason why I'm looking for this as a resident of Ferguson is that I don't want to see this happen anywhere else in the country. I lived it, I saw it, I experienced it, and surely not all of the departments across the country are like that, but it does raise questions in terms of what checks and balances are in place to prevent something like this from happening. So to use Ferguson and make it the example of what not to do, one way to do that is either by ensuring that they implement the recommendations from the Department of Justice, or to have them taken over, or just to have them disbanded completely. So as I stated, I'm trying to apply additional pressure to make them do what's right, and if not, then someone that is more qualified would be allowed to take over. With that, Mr. Chair, if anyone has any questions,
Actually, I have a question.
Sure, go ahead.
And just hypothetically, if we were to disband the Ferguson Police Department, what's the next step?
In terms of the state actions, or just at the local level?
Enforcement of municipal laws and things like that.
So some of that,
I kind of thought about that, and I'm like, how would it be St. Louis County take that over, or would it be, I mean, I don't know, how many police officers Ferguson have?
roughly about 53-ish or so.
53?
Yes.
Okay.
So what's typically happened in St. Louis County is St. Louis County was the authority that ended up taking over And they've, at this point in time, I believe it's roughly 72 current contracts in place in St. Louis County for policing. And I think that's a combination of unincorporated areas as well as incorporated areas. So they would be the general body that we would look to. Now, things aren't all peaches and cream with St. Louis County, but it would give us a better place to start in terms of writing or correcting the behavior that we don't agree with, as opposed to continuing to leave that current culture intact and in place with the ability to come back. Just because the spotlight's on now, and I would assume that everyone's on their best behavior in Ferguson. That's not, necessarily happening everywhere else in the country, but in Ferguson, people are behaving, though after this initially happened, they had the body cameras and something happened and they weren't on. So, I mean, there are still things that are being done that are undermining the credibility and the trust of the department in the community. And as someone that respects law enforcement, though I've had my run-ins for no particular reason, and we can talk about that at a later date, I don't want anyone else to be against the police. That shouldn't be the case. So if they do anything else, that will only further undermine the credibility and trust of the police department. If we look at what happened in South Carolina, though that's something different as well, that's only further eroding the trust. So it would go to St. Louis County, but this bill would allow for any accredited agency, and I left it vague so that we had room to, you don't want to come in and say the highest accreditation. I've been told that the highest accreditation takes roughly 5 years and several tens of thousands of dollars. So that would be an undue financial burden on them and others. But St. Louis County, which has taken over more of the county, would probably be the right organization.